Hey, what's going on? It is Matt Kelley. It is Matty Riser. You got another edition of the WrestleMats. Welcome in. And Matty, tonight on this episode, we have a topic that is a one-time only topic. I don't think we're going to have many of those throughout this, but we are fantasy booking John Cena's retirement tour. And John strikes me as one of those guys that when he's done, he's done. So I think this is a one and done for us here, buddy.
The time is now. John Cena, fantasy booking. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity for us to witness greatness, and we are on the road to WrestleMania.
We are indeed on the road to WrestleMania, and I think we're doing this at an interesting time, Maddie, because we kind of talked about doing it before, and then now we've kind of pushed this until after the Royal Rumble. And ironically enough, I think both of us probably would have booked John Cena as one of the favorites, if not the favorite, to win the Royal Rumble. He didn't, so I think our fantasy booking now, because we waited until now to do this episode, looks a little bit differently. And for as much as it's hot news right now to talk about John Cena's retirement tour, there is more and more hot news going on in the world of professional wrestling. So before we get to all the fantasy booking, the dream matches, the dream opponents, all of that good stuff left in the career of the GOAT John Cena, Maddie, let's talk about what is going down in the world of professional wrestling, especially this week as we were watching SmackDown. You and I were kind of texting back and forth, and then all of a sudden, through X, we start seeing that WWE made several releases over this past week. So just going to run these down real quick, Maddie, and I want you to kind of give me just your instant reaction to, maybe some talent that was missed, or maybe you just think this is kind of the game right now in WWE, and if you don't step it up, then it's going to be a tough time cutting it over on the WWE landscape. So the authors of Pain, Akam, and Razor, they just had that tag match against the Street Profits at WrestleMania 40. Paul Ellering, who is kind of their manager there within the Final Testament, Sonya Deville, Blair Davenport, Cedric Alexander, Isla Dawn, the Good Brothers, and Giovanna Vinci, all at one time. Well, pretty much at one time, and Elektra Lopez as well, all gone from WWE right now.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, it's a bunch of side pieces, a bunch of guys that weren't getting used properly, or girls. And, you could make a case for some of these were, parts, but they weren't focal parts. So with the roster we talked about at previous weeks, you told me it was over 100 superstars on the
Right.
WWE roster. Where do you have room for the Good Brothers? If they're not where do you have room for, authors of pain necessarily? We have Austin Theory and, Grayson Waller not even getting used properly. So
Yeah, they
it's
were in
tough.
NXT tonight, actually. As we're recording
Okay.
this on we're recording this on a Tuesday, apart from our usual Monday. But yeah, that's kind of to your point. I mean, they're on
Yeah.
NXT now.
Yeah. You're diluting your brand when you have this kind of content where you got to let them go at this point. Make room for more.
It is kind of interesting to me that with the tag team division, not with a bunch of established tag teams, we've kind of talked about this in prior episodes and just off in general to ourselves, that there aren't a ton of established tag teams that look like established tag teams. Authors of Pain and the Good Brothers definitely kind of fit that mold, but to your point, just not gaining any real traction with either of their factions or any of their matches or things like that. Sonya Deville she was in such a weird spot, trying to find her place with Mandy Rose after she left. Some personal things that went on. I think she was like a general manager for a period of time and then
Right.
comes back to in-ring action. So a lot going on there. Blair Davenport, they kind of made a big deal out of her being drafted last summer to the SmackDown brand, kind of had some things with Isla Dawn, Alba Fire, but then that didn't really materialize much either. And so really, when you look at this, the one, well, I would say they kind of missed out on two. One being Authors of Pain, just because those are two big dudes that look completely different from anything else that you have in your tag team division. So I'll say they missed a little bit there. The other one that I think they missed a little bit with was Giovanni Vinci. And the reason I say that is because Imperium with Gunther, with Ludwig Kaiser, you had that whole thing go down. I think they had a match with Kaiser and Vinci at some point, and then they tried to rebrand Vinci. Vinci, I remember some vignettes and things like that, and then after that, that was just kind of it.
Yeah, he just kind of. I think when they brought him back, he lost like clean in under a minute or something stupid.
Yeah, it
But
wasn't much.
that was one of those factions that we could have had that could have, like, Gunther doesn't necessarily need it, but it could have made
Right.
Giovanni, like you said, the Good Brothers. They're a veteran tag team, could help the tag division. But when you think about the most memorable moments for them were with AJ Styles as a heel. So I think we're going through a lot of these people that don't have a ton of lasting or like memorable moments as much as
Sure.
they do a one or two off where you kind of, like you said, Blair Davenport, her getting, the only thing I remember is her getting drafted in the big, draft fields. But other than that, I can't remember a lot of content with her.
Yeah, with Blair Davenport, I actually had to go back and look, and I was like, did she have moments after really getting called up? She had like a feud with Naomi, and then there was a hit and miss time with Isla Dawn, Alba Fire, and that's kind of really it. And then we didn't hear much from her. So I think that's kind of just speaking to how difficult it is to cut the mustard right now on the WWE roster. We're not saying any of these folks aren't talented. We're just saying it's hard. It's as hard now as maybe any time since the Attitude Era to just stand out and get your spot there on TV and on the roster.
Yeah, just a deep roster, and these guys are going to do great on the independents, or some of them might end up in TNA, AEW. I could definitely see a spot where the authors are paying, get over big, and maybe come back down the road. So it's not, there is light at the end of the tunnel for these releases.
Yeah, speaking of AEW, we've had free agents coming and going, big news there. And ironically, because we're recording on a Tuesday instead of a Monday, we got one piece of the puzzle, and I'll save it till the end here. So it came out earlier this week that Rusev, who was working as Miro in AEW, they came to an agreement, and he is no longer with AEW. Alistair Black, or Malachi Black for that matter, also no longer with AEW. And then we're still kind of unsure about the status. I think Matt Cardona is just straight up a free agent. He's listed on a couple of different pages as being a talent, but I think all things, all things even, he's basically just a free agent at this point. So, of these, Matty, Rusev and Aleister Black, both prior WWE talents, do you think they find their way back into WWE?
I'm not sure about Miro or Rusev. Rusev Day. He had a hot minute there. I think it was a Cena match at WrestleMania, and
Yep, I was
everybody.
there for it.
And who was the guy that used to sing Rusev Day?
Oh man,
He cracked me up.
I'll think
Uh,
of it here in a minute, but yeah, I mean that was getting over big
yeah,
time.
yeah. I just don't. That's, to me, still mid card at best, and I don't even. I think the mid card's upped its game so much now. I don't know where Rusev or Miro fits into the WWE product. Aleister Black, though, to me, he seems like he's probably the best one out of the bunch to bring in. He has a look. Everybody remembers that stop feud he had with Seth Rollins. He had really good luck as NXT champion and an undefeated streak for that fact. So out of those, I definitely like to see Black, I think, at least have some kind of relevance in the WWE.
Aleister Black had one of the best entrances in professional wrestling, period. Now, there was a point of time where I think Vince kind of tinkered with it, or somebody tinkered with it. If somebody tinkered with it, I'll pretty much assume it's Vince.
Right.
But he had some amazing music. He had the essentially, kind of rising from the casket there at the stage, and then the candles. I mean, the whole thing, it just worked for him. And I thought he was for sure going to take off. And, obviously that didn't happen. His wife, Zelina Vega, is there in WWE. So it wouldn't shock me at all if he ends up back on the SmackDown roster where she is. The one piece of the puzzle that we got before getting on to tonight's pod is that Ricky Starks from AEW ended up on WWE NXT. So he basically came through the crowd, cut a promo, said, "Hey, I'm the hottest free agent in wrestling on the hottest brand in wrestling, meaning WWE NXT." And it seems like he's there. I mean, this is less than 24 hours that the news came out that he had departed AEW. He's already showing up in NXT, and he looks to be a main player. How familiar are you with Ricky Starks, Matty?
I do know the big promo spots in AEW. I
Mm-hmm.
do know that he's gotten buried quite a bit throughout AEW. I don't think we've seen him since 2024. I don't remember when, but I do know that the crowd went crazy for him at NXT. So props to him for making the switch, staying relevant. As the news broke that he was released within 24 hours to get on NXT, that just increases your brand awareness.
Yeah, I think anytime you can jump from the second biggest promotion to the biggest promotion in professional wrestling that quickly, that just kind of speaks to how much you're actually valued. So I don't know what went down there with Ricky Starks and AEW, but he wasted no time getting his way over to WWE, and he'll be there along with TNA. Well, not TNA's, but now WWE's Jordan Grace, as well as news came out that she's going to be starting out in TNA. I know, man. I thought she was main roster bound for sure. I don't know why she's starting out in TNA, but that's probably another episode. Let's get to the GOAT tonight, Maddie. Let's get to John Cena and booking his retirement tour. So John has made it known that 2025 is going to be it for him. And so with that said, I think in a presser, if I remember that, correct me if I'm wrong, Maddie, but I think he said that he and WWE had agreed to somewhere between the neighborhood of 20 and 35 appearances over his retirement tour. Does that sound about right?
36 dates.
36 dates. Okay, so we included the Netflix premiere, we included the Royal Rumble, and that's the only two. That's it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh,
34
wow.
left.
All right, so they are really backloading here. The end of John Cena's retirement tour, and as I noted at the top of the show, we both probably thought that John was going to be winning the Royal Rumble, and we kind of would have had, I think, different archetypes and different plans for this retirement tour and the stops at WrestleMania, so on and so forth. And so now that we have that piece of information, we kind of have to backtrack and say, well, what's John do at the Elimination Chamber? He's already declared for it. He's there with CM Punk, Drew McIntyre as well there in the chamber. So what do you think happens at the chamber with John Cena, Maddie?
Before we got to the chamber, back to the drawing board. That was my first thought. And this has been a creative process, just trying to think how to book John Cena for the Elimination Chamber, for WrestleMania. And then, like you said, this is a legend, a GOAT, is it 16-time WWE champion? He's got to win that 17 at some point. I think that's going to be in the process. But how soon? Is this going to be a story you tell over months? Or how do you tell this story? So for me, the Elimination Chamber, I don't think he gets the dub at the chamber.
Oh, I am shocked to hear you say that he doesn't get the dub, because I also don't think John wins at the Elimination Chamber, which means it probably means we're both wrong. It's a hype, but it truly means it probably means we're both going to be horribly wrong. I will say, as we're talking about this, right, we are completely fantasy booking, and some of it is stuff that I do think has a chance to happen, and some of it is just stuff that I purely want to see happen, and is probably, if I'm being true to myself, is unlikely to happen. But yeah, I actually don't have him winning the Elimination Chamber either. But so with that, Maddie, do you have a projection for the chamber? And like, do you have him as kind of the last man out again, the way that he was at the Royal Rumble?
Yeah, I like to piggyback off the Royal Rumble, how it ended. And luckily we have a little bit of storytelling going on with CM Punk and the way he's kind of calling out Cena week in, week out. Now, does that take an effect at the Elimination Chamber? The way I have it planned out is we're down to the final 3. Cena eliminates Logan Paul. Paul takes it upon himself to make a statement and beat up Cena after he's already been eliminated. And Punk, being the ultimate opportunist, gives him the wave and makes the move, and you have Punk winning the Elimination Chamber. I think Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns cancel each other out. And is it Drew McIntyre, Logan Paul? Is that who do we have left?
Correct. Yeah, I had left out Logan Paul earlier. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, but you had Logan Paul being eliminated by John Cena at the Royal Rumble. And I've heard some of the beef, kind of back and forth before even the Elimination Chamber with, Logan Paul being on Cena's show, whatnot. And just some of the kind of underground, just the swelling of Logan Paul talking shit. I think it would set up a nice little swan song at WrestleMania. What about you?
I've got it going a very similar way
Okay.
but
Okay.
with a route that I maybe thought that you would have taken. And I think you're going to be a little bit mad at yourself knowing
Let's hear it.
what I know about
Hmm.
what I'm about to say. So
Oh boy.
I also have the final three being Logan Paul, John Cena, and CM Punk.
Okay.
I have John Cena eliminating Logan Paul, much the way you do.
Okay.
But instead of it going down with Logan Paul the way that you had, I have CM Punk cashing in his one favor from one Paul Heyman. He calls in his one favor to Paul Heyman, and you hear the beast incarnate and his music
No
hit
way.
coming down to the chamber to
Oh
take
my
out
God.
John Cena and ensure CM Punk's spot at WrestleMania.
How crazy. Yes. Please, Lord, let that happen. That sounds, I'm a Brock Lesnar mark, so I'm all for it. But man, yeah, I mean that's kind of one of the elephants in the room in all of this is the favor that Punk has in his back pocket for Heyman. You really don't want it to be like the favor is he gets to be in a triple threat match with Roman and Sacred
Right,
Mania.
right,
What good
right,
does
right,
that
right,
do?
right.
I like it. I could see that. I wish that would happen. I just don't know the Brock Lesnar.
Oh, I think it's the biggest stretch of this whole fantasy booking
Yes.
that I have going on for sure. It's just something that I would like to see
Oh
happen
man.
because it in turn sets up what I want to happen for John Cena and WrestleMania. So it also
No, that's
brings it also brings the ability for CM Punk to I think if that happens and he cheats, utilizing Brock Lesnar's help at the Elimination Chamber, he automatically gets viewed as heel. And
right.
so setting up in that heel matchup with Cody Rhodes, I think would actually do him a lot of favors just from the standpoint of that being the main event. But when we project out to WrestleMania, if I utilize that as the storyline, then it also gives me one matchup that I want to see again, and it puts it on the biggest stage, Maddie, and it's WrestleMania. I would love to see John Cena, Brock Lesnar lock it up one more time on the biggest stage of them all.
Well, I think that might be the ultimate underdog story for Cena going into WrestleMania. A guy who hasn't won a TV match
Agreed.
since
Agreed.
2018. That's
Yeah.
we're talking 7 years since he's been, it's hard to say relevant, but a
But
major
kind of.
player for, the title. So, yeah, I love that idea. And I do think that escalates we're trying to get Cena over as a credible that he's still in the game. We see him in Budapest
Right.
filming movies. We're kind of getting let down right now about his what's the word to say? Just his dedication to the WWE universe.
Right, and that's when I was asking you, I was like, "Oh, how many dates does he have?" And you said 30. You said 36, and I was like, "Well, hell, he's got 34 left then." And so he's gonna, does that include live shows? Like, does that include some Saturday night main events, PLE? Like, where does this all come into play? He's got to make it up somewhere.
Right. And when he has said after he films this movie, he's going to be full time WWE. So
Okay.
maybe we get our prayers answered and that's what we get. But I think that's our biggest problem, our hurdle right now with him winning the Elimination Chamber is we don't see him. We just see him lose. So how do you put this guy in the ring and just give him a W and send his ass off to WrestleMania versus Cody Rhodes?
Well, think about the investment that we already have from this past week's WWE's Monday Night Raw, and that we already have the setup for main event Jey Uso and Gunther, and so now they have 10 weeks to build that story. And I get it that Elimination Chamber is not that far off, but we're basically burning what 2, 3, 4 weeks before John maybe or maybe does not win, and that's just pushing out also his WrestleMania build. So, to your point, it does feel a little bit like for as much as this is his retirement tour, like that it's not front and center, like he's not
Yeah, he's
locked
not
in, and so
he's not mentally and emotionally invested into the WWE product like all these other gamers are on the road to WrestleMania.
where do you have him slotted in then at WrestleMania?
Yeah, I think Logan Paul makes a good amount of sense. Everybody hates Logan Paul.
People are
He
gonna
is
hate
on
that so
a
much.
burner right now. He is killing it. Do you
Yeah.
know how many Instagram followers Logan Paul has?
I would venture to say more than most other WWE superstars.
Do you think he has more than John Cena?
I do, yeah.
Logan Paul has 26.9 million Instagram followers. Cena has 20.
Okay.
If you
Yeah.
put, I think, just Logan Paul's obnoxious mic work, where he's just running down Cena as this old 47-year-old has been, and you put these two in the ring on a big stage like this is another moment that everybody's going to want to see Logan Paul get his ass kicked. And you give Cena this, that super Cena that we want. We want to see him come back strong and get that. He'll maybe take off the socks, put on some ankle socks, get himself a nice haircut, come back the way he should, and beat Logan Paul's ass.
Boy, those tall socks meshing
Terrible.
all the way up to the jorts was a true dad move there
That's
on
a
Cena's end.
fashion
That was
faux pas, as they say.
even we're talking about a fashion faux pas for a man that's worn jorts for 20 years. Yeah, I mean, I do think Logan Paul is a good choice. I was gonna say, do you think that there is a little bit of a concern because we just saw Logan Paul in action last night against Rey Mysterio, and Rey Mysterio, even at his age, has a pretty decent work rate. Now we know that Logan Paul can probably go for days. I mean, with his athleticism and stamina, and I think he has the ability to match the work rate of like maybe a Penta or something like that. And so, do you think John? I don't think has that in his bag anymore. I just don't, and especially the way that he's been storytelling through matches. It seems like every move that John takes, it takes him 3, 4, 5 times longer to recover than maybe it would have even 2, 3 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, you've got, like we say, Cena's 47. He's competed 300 days a year for 2 decades.
Yeah.
So the wear and tear on Cena is, but that makes me think, like, then you put him up against Brock Lesnar.
Mhm.
I mean, Jesus Christ. I don't know if he makes it to the next event, but yeah, my only concern is Logan Paul telling his story. Can they do
Yeah.
that with a half-ass Cena and with Logan Paul, who's has these highlight moves in these
Mhm.
moments, but in-ring psychology might not be there just yet, just with not enough miles on the ride.
Yeah, I mean, I think watching last night his match with Rey Mysterio, his Elimination Chamber qualifying match with Rey Mysterio, to me it said that Rey was leading the match and that Logan was doing a good job of following. And I think that John could probably do the same. I think you just have to question whether Logan Paul can get in those highlight reel type moves with Cena the way that he was able to with Ray. I don't think there's necessarily maybe the same agility there, the ability to tell that story. I don't know. I don't
Well,
know.
but I mean, he could use the heel tactics, use,
Sure,
the
sure.
Kai Sant, the prime guy, every little way to kind of weasel his way, and Cena just keeps coming back.
Yeah.
So I mean, it could go either way. I like both of our avenues. I did see this one stat that was crazy. Every time Cena's been runner up in the Royal Rumble, he's
Yeah,
went
he's come back
on.
to win at
Yeah,
Mania.
I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I was like,
Yeah.
or in the ground swells from Dave Meltzer and all the wrestling observer is that it's going to be him and Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania, and I don't mind seeing that match at Mania. I just don't know if we're all ready to see Cena win a like that. Just leaves a lot of open-ended story to keep going after Mania. I don't think we need that yet.
I don't think we need it yet, and I don't think that his crowning moment is best served with Cody Rhodes, and that's I'm not trying to, like, I'm not taking away from Cody Rhodes at all. I think Cody's been a great champion. He's at the top of WWE, and man, it just feels like the wrong time for that. I just don't know what their build would be other than they're just the 2 best of their era maybe
Right.
sorta deal. And that's an okay story, but I think if you give John that true heel to work against, you're gonna see him shine a little bit more there for his final WrestleMania. But you do have him winning at WrestleMania, yeah?
Yeah, I do have him beating Logan Paul, and that kind of kickstarts a different Cena. Hopefully, we start seeing him face some of the younger talent. Some of these matches we want to see. Doesn't necessarily have to win every one, but I would love to see. He needs to get that W at the biggest stage, which to me makes more sense against Logan Paul than it does Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, and I mean that's what I was saying at the after our Royal Rumble review show, that John kind of needs a win at this point, and I think
Big
it
time.
kind of has to. Yeah, I think it kind of has to come at WrestleMania, especially if we both have him losing in the chamber some way somehow. So before we get to John's projected last match, Maddie, who are some opponents? I was kind of running and milling through this earlier. Who are some opponents that you want to see John Cena have a standoff with, a match with, work with, before he hangs them up?
All right, I'll go with one first. John Cena's never won the IC championship.
Okay. So he's side questing for the IC title now.
I mean, just while we're on the route, why not have a little something?
Okay.
Not necessarily off the bat. We have till December, so we have plenty of time.
Okay.
But I would love to see him kind of mix in, work his way up, go to the mid card. You've got guys like Braun Breaker. You've got, Dirty Dom, these other guys that are kind of cutting their teeth that you could put over a lot of these guys, not necessarily by letting them win, by just, stepping in the ring and going back and forth with these guys. But I would like to see Braun Breaker versus John Cena.
Yeah, Braun's a good one. And when I was going through kind of John's most prolific rivalries over time, there's not a lot of active WWE superstars from some of his more prolific rivalries throughout his career. And so, there's not going to be a Triple H, there's not going to be a Batista, there's not going to be an Undertaker match. And so when you start listing those off, you're like, oh man, the list is actually kind of short. Edge is in a different promotion now, so you can't have that one either. And so for me, I do want to see Randy Orton one more time there with John Cena. I think that's one you got to check off the bucket list somewhere, and that story just really writes itself. And back over to your point, there's a ton of up and coming WWE talent that maybe isn't at the top of the card, but if they can knock off that John Cena bucket list type match, put those eyes on them, maybe that helps them elevate heading into 2026.
Yeah, knock off some of the ring rust, get you ready for this Super Cena run we get for the rest of the year. But I think there's a lot of guys he can prove himself with the Logan Pauls, the Dominic Mysterios, Braun Breaker, and then you move on to that upper card with the Kevin Owens, the AJ Styles, some of these guys he had. I was looking back at it. Kevin Owens made his debut in WWE versus Cena. I couldn't believe that.
Yeah, I was living in San Antonio, Texas at the time when Kevin Owens walked out and challenged John Cena, and Kevin Owens was still the NXT champion. So I got to see that kick off. So Kevin Owens is definitely a big one for me thrown in there. You mentioned AJ Styles. I've been saying AJ Styles for like 2 or 3 weeks, so people are probably tired of me already saying that, but AJ Styles back looking great. I definitely want to see them lock it up one more time. And one that's I'm seeing kind of floated around, and I don't know if I like it. I can't tell if I want it to happen. It would be the most interesting kind of thing for Cena to go and do. But what do you think the odds are, Maddie, that John Cena says Joe Hendry's name at some point and has a match? Huh?
I think he should do it at TNA.
I think he should do it at TNA too. I wholeheartedly, I'm so glad you said that, and not Survivor Series, not SummerSlam. I mean, if it happens at SummerSlam, that's fine. That's cool too. I think it's a bigger deal if he goes to TNA and does it.
Could you imagine like that being one of your selling points for the TNA product, like to pitch for a TV deal? Like, you never know when The Rock or John Cena are going to show up on our show. That's huge. But yeah, to me, that's got to happen. And I think TNA, I don't know if it's a pay-per-view, if it's just a interaction together. I don't know necessarily what it will be, but I think interactions on some of these will be just as important.
I think it's right place, right time, both for Joe Hendry and John Cena, to kind of make that happen. So I think it's a long shot. Ultimately, WWE is going to, prioritize themselves, their superstars, which, don't get me wrong, that's absolutely what they should do. But I would be curious if they go that route, try something new. I think John is one of those people that wants to test the waters and to make younger talent. And I think it's, again, right place, right time there with Joe Hendry. So here we are, Maddie. Last match of John Cena's career. Who do you have him up against for the final one?
Before we get to the final one, I want to mention the final boss. I want to have some kind of interact. I don't want necessarily a match.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's the night of the title shot for the 17th championship.
Yeah.
I want somehow them to cross paths backstage.
That
where you just see a stare
definitely
down.
needs to happen.
We've had two matches. I don't know if we'll get a rubber match ever. We can't even get Rock versus Roman right now.
Yeah, that is the hard part. Yeah, that is the hard part. I can't imagine them saying, "Hey, come back for John, but not for Roman."
No, just give us some kind of encounter. I think encounters are just as important with these. And everybody listening, I'm not talking about your Craigslist casual encounter. Old school, baby. While we're talking, see that now.
Oh boy, I haven't even thought about logging in onto G.O.A.T Craigslist in a hot minute, but certainly not that section either.
Yeet. The final match, I think you got to put legend versus legend killer, man. I think it writes itself. Randy Orton, whether it's December, whenever his last one, you have 23 different title matches between John Cena and Randy Orton.
Okay.
Now, how amazing would it be? And I think Randy Orton's right up there with what, like 15 or 14?
I think he's at 14, if I remember right. Yeah.
So even if you had, I just think Randy Orton would be the guy he puts down. I think when it comes time, Randy Orton's going to be the guy that inducts him in the Hall of Fame. And I just think this would be a perfect send-off, whether it's that pay-per-view in Boston or whatnot. I think they're talking about a Ruthless Aggression pay-per-view.
Like a whole pay-per-view named after Cena?
Right, and it's in Boston.
Okay.
So I don't know if he'll necessarily wrestle there, if that'll be a send-off. But yeah, I'd like to see Randy Orton and Cena kind of close that chapter on Cena's career.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool. I hadn't heard that rumored yet about a PLE name for Cena, but obviously, SmackDown has a lot of tie-ins with The Rock, and so giving Cena the GOAT, kind of his own send-off at his own show, I think that's great, and they can kind of do tributes and stuff all night. Yeah, that'd be fun. I hadn't thought about that at all. I hadn't heard that floated, but I don't that this is the only part that I really didn't have nailed down throughout John Cena's retirement tour. And you kind of alluded to it. You're like, yeah, December or whenever, right? Like I
right. You don't know if that's the last match. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just really don't know. I mean, I'm assuming it ends in 2025 because he said this is his last Rumble and that sort of thing. And I think they'll want to tie up those loose ends. But yeah, I just don't know if it ends at an iconic pay-per-view like Survivor Series or if they give him, the Ruthless Aggression treatment or something like that. But the way I have it ending, Maddie, and I talked about it on a prior episode, and that a lot of wrestlers prefer to go out on their backs, and I don't think that's going to be the case for John Cena. So the way that I would like to see it end, and I floated two ideas to myself, and one I couldn't bring myself to happen, and so I'm going to go the other route. I'll tell you the first one, and everybody would have hated it. The first one that I thought about was him defeating main event Jey Uso to kind of bring back around him getting eliminated at the Royal Rumble. But I don't think the name recognition, for as hot as Jey Uso is, for everything, I don't think you can wrap up John Cena's career on, and it's not a slight to main event Jey Uso. Uso. I think it's just, you got to bring somebody in with a more personal rivalry to end John's career with. So with that, like I said, at WrestleMania, I have CM Punk going against Cody Rhodes, and then I have CM Punk beating Cody Rhodes for the title, holding it all the way to John's last match, and CM Punk being John's last match, and where John wins number 17.
That's very fitting. That would be amazing because you have so much
blowing
traction.
The kiss at the end.
Oh, the Money in the Bank from what is it, 2015 or whatnot?
Yeah.
Like, that was huge. Like, I think that's probably Punk's greatest rivalry is.
Yeah.
I mean, the pipe bomb, there's so much that came from. I wasn't even a Punk fan before that pipe bomb. And that kind of made me, now he's submitted as a legend, but that wouldn't have happened without John Cena being who he was in the WWE product for so long, being John Cena. So yeah, oh my God.
I
Punk's,
mean,
yeah, that's another one. It's got to happen.
I do think there is some traction there. Now, does it happen as John's last match? I don't know. But you already had Punk alluding to John just declaring his spot at the Elimination Chamber and kind of taking exception to that and already, taking shots at John while he's not there. So I think inevitably those two find their way to each other. Be it SummerSlam, Survivor Series, whatever the case may be. Maybe it really is John's last match. I think that would be quite fitting, but that is one that I think has to get done, somewhere within the framework here.
Yeah, I mean, that's all these are so good. Let's just keep booking, baby. There's so many good ones. I even had
Yeah, what do we got?
what do
33 more dates here to book? No, I'm just
come
kidding.
on, we got plenty. What about Dr. Thugonomics? You think we'll eventually see
Yeah,
is it gonna be
I mean, go ahead.
I was gonna say perfect person to use it on would be like Dominic Mysterio.
Yeah.
Like say something he doesn't have something that rhymes with a stick or something,
Yeah.
But I mean, now that we're a little bit more edgier, I guess you could use it. But I don't know if a 47-year-old man rapping would really bring more eyes to it.
I
I don't
mean,
know.
he had the appearance as Doctor Thugonomics back at WrestleMania. What was the one that Becky Lynch, Ronda, and Charlotte Flair main evented? Whatever WrestleMania that was, I think it was back
Right.
in San Francisco, if I remember it right. But either way, he had like the short appearance there as the Doctor of Thugonomics, and I think you could brand it maybe as like a one-off. He does it somewhere, but
Yeah.
my gut says my gut says it won't happen. As fun as it would be,
No.
I would love for it to happen. Just I don't need a
Just a
whole run.
one-off again.
Yeah, I just need the
I don't.
one-off.
Yeah, just to kind of talk a little trash to one of the because he's gonna get murked, I'm sure, on the microphone with all these young bloods that are gonna be gunning for him. You're already seeing Punk just take him to school. So yeah, hopefully John Cena makes a comeback ASAP.
And that's actually going to be our poll here that you can go to now over on X. Find us at WrestleMats. You can find us at WrestleMats on pretty much any platform. But over there on X, we're going to be asking you, who should John Cena's final opponent be? Drop a comment. Let us know over there at WrestleMats. I'm sure there's a boatload of ideas for John's last opponent that we haven't even thought of. So I am open to interpretation here, and that's the fun, Maddie, of fantasy booking.
Absolutely. That's so much of us are wrestling fans, one, and we've all sat in front of the TV and, played Monday morning quarterback, how this could have
Mm-hmm.
played out. And we're getting to do that right now with John Cena, one of the greatest of all time. Buckle up and enjoy this road to WrestleMania. And more importantly, John Cena.
Let me ask you one other quick question that I thought about, and it's not in our docket, and I'm not trying to throw you off, but does John make your Mount Rushmore of WWE wrestlers?
Oh, Matt, my boy. Oh, God. See, I'm starting to talk like a WCW promoter in like 92. No.
No,
This is tough, man.
Boy, oh
No,
boy.
it's tough. It's like, in a point, I think he does, but I don't think I'm there. I should be, but there's so many like him and Hogan. Like, where do you put those guys over guys like Stone Cold, The Rock, these other guys? It's tough.
I mean,
to me, it's getting crowded up there on the Rushmore, baby. And I'm not sure.
Exactly.
I don't know if Cena was ever my cup of tea. I respect the hell out of what he did, but there wasn't other than a few matches. And I think I can count maybe a handful of matches that really stick out to me with Cena.
Sure.
And a lot of them were like against Edge or RVD or these like magnificent workers. And Cena was a good worker, good storyteller. It just wasn't my cup of tea. And maybe that's me being too old school or maybe too new school now. But he's a hell of a performer. How about you?
I think he's got to be close. I would really, because I popped this question on myself too. So I really wasn't ready to discuss it either. But I mean, I think if you look at it through the lens in terms of who has done what for WWE, then he has to be on it. Just in terms of putting eyeballs on the product and everything that he did day in, day out. Make-A-Wish, media, all the things. If you encompass all of that and just in terms of what he's actually done for the WWE product, then I think he absolutely has to be on it. But if you're asking me just purely as a fan, as favorite wrestlers and that sort of thing,
Yeah.
I probably really have to sit down and get out the pencil. My gut reaction is no, but I think if I put his career in retrospect, then there's definitely an argument to be made there for Cena.
When I think you said the important thing right there, WWE Mount Rushmore, what he's done
Right.
for the WWE product, then absolutely. It's
Yeah.
hard not to put him, Hogan, Stone Cold, and I don't know who else you'd put. If you'd put Taker, The Rock, it's tough. Or would you put Roman Reigns? I mean, it's close,
right.
but
yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say. Is now you got Roman and what his legacy is going to be, and then it's like, oh, by the way, Randy Orton's pretty damn good too. And I mean, you can just throw so many names in there, and you could debate this for days, really. But yeah, that'll put a bow on this episode for us and the GOAT John Cena and his retirement tour. I'm looking forward to these 33, 34 dates that we got left. Looking forward to seeing where he is going after the Elimination Chamber, WrestleMania. Hit us up at WrestleMats on any platform. We are very active over on X, Instagram. We got the YouTube going. We're about to have the TikTok going. I mean, we're just getting in there, getting after it, Maddie.
That's right. We got so many good shows to look forward to on the road to WrestleMania. We're going to have Elimination Chamber previews still, recaps. We're going to talk a lot about different things like the tag team division, whatnot, and a little bit more fantasy booking as we go. But baby, it's the road to WrestleMania. We are the Wrestling Mats.
Hang in there with us. Next week, we're going to be talking about Triple H's Hall of Fame career. He's been Matty Riser. I've been Matt Kelley. This has been the Wrestlemats. We'll catch you next time.
Yeet.
All right,
like butter, baby. Like butter.